The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Get go, Cowboys! This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Savannah Humoller, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
It's a Tuesday inside the SWBC podcast studio, and it feels a whole lot like Green Bay outside here in North Texas today. Yes, Packers Week has officially begun, weather-wise and otherwise. We got so much to talk about.
We got a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Where do we start?
Exactly. Where do we start?
Where would you like to start?
What a genius I am. I'm going to get it out, damn it, right now.
No, you, like the rest of us, picked Washington to win last night.
No, that's not it. I'm still one of my flowers for predicting that the Eagles would lose to the Giants the last game of the season. I called it
You did, like a month ago.
3 weeks ago, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
After you saw, I think you called it after you saw the Eagles come here and lose to the Cowboys 33-10. I think it was after that. They're not beating the Giants.
Everson called the downfall way early on.
They're not beating them twice. That's what I said. Okay, thank you.
I don't know that you said that they would lose.
Move on now.
I don't know that you said they would lose 4 out of their last 5 games.
No, did not say that. I just knew the Giants would give them hell. That's all. 2 games.
I think that's what it is. It's like 4 out of 5 now. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
It is 4 out of 5.
It is. Yeah. Going on 5 out of 6 when Baker Mayfield takes care of them on Monday
night.
They
are going to blitz them to death. Hurt's going to see so many blitzes. That's going to be a tough one. I think they're going to lose.
You sure it's not 5 out of 6?
Talk to me.
It may be. I don't know.
Talk to me.
I'm
We'll
trying
find
to
out.
remember. I remember.
We'll look it up. But
Savannah
had something that she was going to start us off with.
That's right.
But I interrupted.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say the committee all decided the Huskies last night, and it didn't turn out in our favor for the Big Shots crew. Sorry, guys.
Why didn't we take into account tough physical football? I went with playmakers instead, and those playmakers got shut down by tough physical football, and that's how you win football games. In fact, if you go back to look at the last 2 national champions, those Georgia Bulldogs, they didn't win it with the quarterback and the wide receiver. They won it with those front 7 guys on defense.
And those DBs in the back were tight. Mm-hmm. They were tight on those wide receivers.
It's easy to be tight when your defensive front is in the backfield.
Man, did they block anybody at any time during the game? God, number 73 was apologizing
I was just
all night
getting ready to say 73, right? And then,
Right.
and anytime they hit a big play, it was a hold, right?
Yeah.
And even some questionable holds. But they didn't mind Michigan grabbing jerseys and stretching them out.
That was an easy call. I mean, the running back's right there. He's being held here, and they can't get to him. I don't know why.
Or the DBs. It was amazing. But we've seen that before.
No, but Michigan deserved that. They came out and whooped them real good.
Well, the amazing thing was it was a 1-score game late in the third quarter.
The Washington defense, they started playing. 13-20 for a minute. Then they couldn't hold on anymore. They couldn't hold on any longer. Could not.
And in this just in from Philadelphia, they have lost 5 of their last 6 games.
That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
did it start with the Cowboys?
It's actually started with San Francisco.
San Francisco, then the
week
Cowboys?
before the Cowboys.
Okay.
So it was San Francisco, it was Dallas, it was Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then they beat the Giants at home, and then it was Kyler Murray, and then it was the Giants again.
Mm-hmm. And
now it's about to be Baker Mayfield.
They were fortunate enough to beat the Giants at home too, right? It was like a
it was a close
3-point game or so.
1-score game. Yeah. And so, has Harbaugh landed anywhere yet?
He's out of there, right?
I know where I'd like him to land.
Ann Arbor. Where would you like him to land there, Savannah?
The L.A. Chargers.
Oh, that's right. San Diego girl.
Yeah.
He has experience coaching in San Diego. Of course, they don't play in San Diego anymore. He was at the University of San Diego about 20 years ago.
Well, if you're
before Stanford.
I did not know that.
Yep.
If you're looking at landing spots, you got to pick a quarterback, right? And who's got a quarterback of all these teams that fired their head coaches? The Chargers, right?
Herbert.
So
So you don't want to see Belichick out there with Herbert?
No. I mean,
He's still got a job,
Yeah, he keeps saying that.
right?
Yeah, he keeps saying that.
yeah.
I'm under
don't know.
contract. I'm not going anywhere.
Did you see the quote? I don't know what Patriot player it was. I just heard about it. Quote that a Patriots player had said yesterday that, okay, if they let go Belichick, then Kraft's going to go look for the best coach out there. And so the Patriots player, so he's going to rehire Belichick then?
Oh, gosh.
That's good.
It was good.
Oh, I'll say, speaking of Patriots players, Zeke, somebody asked him if he's going to watch the Cowboys and pull for his former teammates. And he said he'd try to make it to the Cowboys playoff game, and he definitely plans to pull up and support them.
Of course.
So,
Of course he is.
love that. Love that from Zeke.
That's Zeke.
Well, he's campaigning for a job next year.
That's right. It's pending free agency. Would you give up if you're Atlanta, would you give up the 8th pick in the draft to make a trade with the Patriots for their head coach?
Yes.
Okay, you've played for him before.
I would. Yes, I
if you're
would.
the Falcons, and say you got the 8th pick in the draft, you would give up the first-round draft pick, make a trade with the Patriots to get Belichick as your coach.
Belichick could win with that team. He could win with that team.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta. He could win with that team.
Who's the quarterback?
It don't matter. He'll make them work.
I
He'll
can
make
get
it work.
one with my 8th.
He'll make
Yeah,
it
with the
work.
8th, that's what you're giving up, basically, is
And then they got a whole bunch of top picks, even with the coach that they had with Arthur. It was his name, Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
They had a whole lot of
With
nice
Arthur.
picks. Come on, with Arthur.
Basically, there were too many Arthurs in Atlanta, and so the guy with the higher
with the bigger check,
who writes the
big
check
pen,
said, "Okay, I don't need another Arthur
They
here."
picked a lot of top draft picks, offensive-minded draft picks, and they didn't work out. So the picks aren't the problem; it's the system.
Well, they traded some too, right? Mm-hmm. Or traded for the wide receiver. They got rid of
Julio Jones.
Julio Jones.
Yeah,
right?
they traded a whole draft.
Is Patterson still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's getting heavy.
He looks bigger and bigger every year. He went from this really nice-looking slot receiver, all of a sudden he's like
And he became a running back. And
Right.
now he's back to
looks
being
more
a
like
kick
a tight
returner,
end,
which is
And he's about to be a free agent, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. And my understanding, and just to pull back the curtain, I was late getting in here. I got here a minute before getting fined because I was looking for a parking place, and the producer Supreme informs me there's been another NFL vacancy in the time that I was looking for a parking
We
place.
already discussed that. Savannah gave us the update on that, I believe.
On the air?
No. Started.
I was like, wait, I don't recall this.
She let us know.
Okay, then Savannah, we need the breaking news sounder, producer Supreme, for Savannah to report.
What are we talking about?
Oh,
Tennessee.
maybe it was Everson said
It
it.
was Everson.
Oh, Everson.
Sorry,
Everson's going to
Like, I
provide
was
us.
handing out credit, right?
You
was
could pass it to me, but
parking.
I don't know what
While
we're
I was
talking about.
parking, breaking news sounder Everson deliver the news from Nashville.
Vrabel is out.
Mike Vrabel fired after 6 seasons.
So is that 6 now?
Something
Empty
like
spots?
The guy was coach of the year in 2022.
Yeah.
That's right. He
2
sure
years ago,
was.
he's coach of the
He
year.
sure was,
He,
Chris.
and this just in, Mike Vrabel just got hired somewhere.
I can't see him. He doesn't seem like a Charger
Coach
guy.
of the year 2021.
He seems like a Patriots head coach.
He really does. He seems like a guy that would go to the Patriots. Yeah, he's got that tough-minded. And, I always brought up his style of coaching along with the Ravens on how I thought the Cowboys should have, that mindset that they should have, the toughness that they have. And he embodied that for 2022, but I guess not for 23.
How about the scene last night? They're showing it on NFL Network right now as John Harbaugh, his flight was delayed leaving Baltimore, and so he arrived at the stadium in Houston during the game and
That
on
was
the
pretty
sideline.
cool. That was very cool. Yeah, that was
Embraces his brother. They already had a 14. If they were down 14-3, I'm not sure they would have approached him on the sideline, even being his brother.
Didn't have
They
time
were
for a
up
hug.
14-3 at
no.
the time.
I mean, when he tapped him on the shoulder, Jim kind of looks over at the guy like, who's trying to talk to me right
He
now?
had his head down, his hands on his knees.
Yeah,
and
he was in that
whatever.
mode.
Yeah, he was in
that
coach mode, and then he looked up.
Hey, man, what you doing here, buddy?
I know
Mom
you.
and Dad are upstairs.
I guess he could say, "Hey, bro." Huh?
Yeah, right.
And the only reason that John Harbaugh was able to do that was because they got a first-round bye. They had the best record in the AFC. So otherwise,
Well, he
would have
knows
been
his
hard at work
brother is
this
a
week.
little tightly wounded. Yeah, he's.
You think?
Yeah, he's. They talk. I remember watching 60 Minutes or something, and he was talking about how anal he is.
Which one?
Jim is anal.
Okay, yeah.
John's a little
imagine.
laid back.
That's shocking.
You can see it. That was the pose he had.
And Mickey, you being the longtime Chicago Bears fan, I always thought the spot for Harbaugh is in Chicago, although it looks like Matt Eberflus
I think
may
he
have saved his
stays,
job.
right? Yeah.
How did he save his job?
Well,
They've finished strong this
came
year.
on strong at the end.
So true.
Well, you know who else saved his job? If you remember, there was people putting Mike Tomlin someplace.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every year
He saves his job every
Right?
year.
someplace.
And now he's in the playoffs. Maybe that's why they were putting him someplace. 'cause-
But you get into the playoffs over a team that had nothing to gain.
Yeah.
By so, and they barely won.
Well, did you see the weather?
Yeah, it was bad.
I could vouch for it because that's what we landed in.
Speaking of weather, how about the Dolphins? Okay, so if they win on Sunday night, they get to play at home. Okay, they've got the number 2 seed, right? Yeah,
Right.
they have the 2 seed, and they not only would play at home the first round, but be in the Cowboys' position, where if they win,
That's it.
basically
Same
they're at
position.
home until they play
Same
Baltimore.
position.
Okay,
Same position.
but they lose. And they have to go to Kansas City. And have you seen the weather forecast for Kansas City?
I bet
Saturday.
it's
It's
like
a
zero.
Saturday night
I'm not
game
ready
Like
for this.
zero.
in Kansas City. So they go from
Snowing,
What-
Snow in the forecast?
Oh, it's. I don't know if there's snow, but there's cold,
It's cold. It's cold.
Well, it's supposed to be cold
and
here.
there's wind in Kansas City. There always is. Are you looking ahead to Savannah to
The Dolphins
Okay,
could-
the
Yes.
high on Saturday. The high in Kansas City will be 11 degrees. The low 2 degrees. But get this. It's a Saturday night game.
Right.
The low on Sunday in Kansas City is -9 degrees, which I assume is going to happen. Well, it may happen later in the day because the low Monday's -11 and the low Tuesday's -18. This is ice bowl
Cold.
stuff.
That's cold.
Oh,
But no precipitation.
Speaking of the
cloudy Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, no. Precip is happening on Friday. There, 60% chance of snow.
So the Packers probably consider themselves very lucky,
Yes, they are.
even though they have to travel.
So the Dolphins went into that. They could have been like the Cowboys, but they turned into the Eagles.
They're going to have
Am I
a roof.
right?
They're gonna have-
pretty
And
much
the other
the
thing
same
that's happening
scenario.
with them is the injuries are just left
yeah.
and right. They lost both their edge rush, Jalen Phillips Thanksgiving, and then New Year's they lose Bradley Chubb, and then they lost Van Ginkel, and they lost another linebacker, Jerome Baker. So
And Tyreek Hill keeps dropping passes.
and they've been without Waddle and Mostert here the last couple of weeks too. So tell me what
Injuries do matter, huh?
tell me what we know about things right now here.
Mike McCarthy's not into reflecting anymore. He's a Cowboy head coach and didn't want to talk about last year or 2016 or anything. So I thought that was a healthy approach for him. Although someone asked him about, well, what about the family? They talking about it? He goes, can't control the family. So, and I think the injury update continues to be optimistic about Tyler Smith possibly being able to practice this week on a limited basis. And not only the head coach saying that, the medical people saying that, but Stephen Jones said it, and and Jerry said it today that he was optimistic. I think they're also optimistic on Stephon Gilmore. The MRI didn't show any significant damage, so probably doesn't practice. I'm guessing Wednesday and Thursday, but I think he'll be questionable. So if they can get those two guys back and get Zach Martin ready to go, they're going to be in pretty good health shape going into this game.
Stephon Gilmore's MRI went better than Ja Morant's MRI yesterday, Everson. Subluxation of the shoulder. And,
right.
Yeah. And I saw that last night, and I said, I hope we don't get some news on a
same thing,
same type of injury on Stephon. So
sometimes when you have that, you really damage the ligaments in there.
That's what happened.
So
There's a labral tear for Morant, and
that's what
you're hoping about. And so fortunately for Gilmore, they didn't see that, and so he's, as he said in the locker room after the game, he's going to be good to go.
I wonder what they would do. If he couldn't play, if they make Igbenogany active?
Well, he would be active, right?
Would he be the guy, or are they going to start Nashawn Wright over there? What's your other choice? Nobody, right? Mm-hmm. Because you got to leave Lewis in the slot. That's a tough spot. That would be significant. So from an injury standpoint, they're good. And
so we were just asking the question a week or so ago, which position group are you most concerned about?
I know. And we were talking linebacker, right?
And we were talking offensive line.
Yeah.
And then it's just amazing how tenuous things are at any position group this time of the year.
Well, they got through with the offensive line starting two backups. Mm-hmm. They may have found something in T.J. Bass and Brock Hoffman, or as Dak called him in the press conference, BTB, Big Time Brock. That's his nickname, right? And Dak says, well, and they say, why do you call him that? He goes, he's the enforcer on that offensive line. He'll come to and he did a couple times in the game, right?
Yeah.
So
Savannah talked about that yesterday. You were impressed with his physicality, even after
his feistiness.
He was the standout for me in that game. He was pretty good. Yeah. I like to see him getting in those reps, too. It's good practice for him and TJ Bass to get out there, because you just never know what will happen. Yeah. And like you said yesterday, I mean, he found out last minute that he was going into the game, and you couldn't really notice it. They blocked for Dak, and that's what you have to do going forward.
Ran the ball and didn't give up a sack. So
on the touchdown drive where Pollard scored the touchdown, the blocking up front was
excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
And you saw it and maybe the play that you're talking about, where the 16-yard run, however long it was, where Pollard got down to the 1-yard line, and then Hoffman was the guy behind him trying to push him into the end zone.
Right.
And Bass made a nice block on that longer run too.
There was another key run that Lipke, they followed. I can't remember if it was a touchdown.
On the touchdown run, it was Lipke,
right?
That was a lead blocker.
Was that in the
second?
Fourth quarter? No.
Well, the Pollard touchdown was in the second quarter.
Right, the Lipke one.
Yeah.
Fourth, right? We'll look.
He made a key block on.
You're not supposed to mention Lipke. Remember?
No, you're not supposed to mention it. You're not supposed to. Everybody else can mention Lipke. You are not supposed to mention it.
Can I mention Lipke blocking?
You can.
Okay, so it's fine for me to mention Lipke blocking.
They can mention Lipke all they want. You can't mention him. Let's just be clear about that. I didn't clarify.
I did hear you though. I'm not mentioning, even though he was my podcast pick to score the first rushing touchdown in the game.
Oh, so it was on the 1st and goal at the 1, and I wrote down he took out 2 guys at the same time.
I think he stumbled in there. And
stumbled into
he tripped over.
No, it was a very physical block.
No, just so you know, I'm just joking about Lipke. I'm hoping,
the backstory is because I was the one that was raving about Hunter Lipke after that last preseason game and came in here and said, you know what? I think he's got a chance to make this team.
Mm-hmm. And then you said after a while, when we needed someone in the red zone and we weren't having, you know what? Maybe we could give him the ball in the red zone. And sure enough, somebody heard you.
And then he fumbled. Well, he didn't fumble. It was the exchange.
No, it wasn't.
They charged the fumble to Dak. So
did they really?
I think so.
Whoa, did they?
I think they
did not know.
I still don't think he thought he was supposed to get the ball.
I don't think so either.
Because if you fumble it, you stop and go for the ball, right?
He was like,
He was into the end zone.
I scored.
He didn't
They
even know
give
it
the
was there.
fumble to the last one who had his hands on the ball.
Okay,
And he
that's
had
because
his
he's
stomach.
supposed to take it. He's got to take it.
It's-
Like here,
it's
dude.
not who's the last one to have his stomach on the ball. It's the one who had his hands on
He
the
just
man.
carried out the
He
fake
kept on
perfectly,
going, boy.
right?
That was excellent. Yeah.
All right, and we're going to keep on going. Another segment of Mick Shots still to come.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys.
And Mick Shots continues now. Jerry talks on Tuesday on The Fan. Anything of note that we should know about?
He was asked near the end about Mike McCarthy and, does he get an extension? And Jerry goes, well, just look at what he's done and how happy I am with everything that's happened. And he's got another year left on his original contract. And I don't think it's even a topic to talk about, just like that. Mm-hmm. But he did say he was very proud of if any of his assistants or Will McClay gets feelers for potential jobs. Will's got a really good job. He just doesn't have the title. But he's got the say-so. And probably the most say-so of anybody in the organization whose last name is not Jones. Mm-hmm. So he's got a pretty good job here.
Take that as a compliment.
If you were going to compare him to any situation, like if it was Godfather, he would be...
He's the next dude.
The consigliere.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
He would be that.
Yeah,
he's got all the power, but he's very quiet.
And he knows how to kind of go between front office and the coaching staff.
That's the thing on all of these, like the head coach openings or GM openings, it's who you're working with that is probably the number one thing.
Right.
And people who don't know the inner workings of how it's done here in Dallas and just say that, it's Jerry Jones that's doing everything and he doesn't listen to anybody, he just does whatever he wants to do, that is the biggest fallacy in the world.
Yeah. And there's
and so for a guy like Will McClay, he knows the Joneses so well, and Will, what he recommends, he knows it's getting listened to and respected, And he doesn't. If he went someplace else, he doesn't have that relationship.
No, he's the general manager, but he's answering to an owner that he doesn't really know. And there's always other things that come into play when you sometimes have a coaching change. So this is off the subject, but LSU hired Missouri's defensive coordinator, and I was like, I didn't donate enough money, right? That was my first jokingly, right? And then I found out that like a couple weeks earlier, they had given Baker a raise to $1.9 million, and he was going to be the highest paid assistant in college.
Who's Baker?
The Cowboys defensive coordinator.
Oh, okay.
Who, by the way, the guy that shut down Ohio State.
Wait, the
Missouri.
Missouri's defensive coordinator.
We all had a puzzled look.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
trying to follow.
And so my reaction was, well, they bought him out, right? Well, they gave him $2.2 million. Well, that's not that much
At
LSU,
okay.
right? And then I kept reading, and he had been there previously and was fired. They got rid of the whole defensive staff. He was the linebackers coach, right? But I kept reading, and then it pointed out that he is married to a former scholarship soccer player from LSU. So I'm thinking Mama wanted to go home. And so I think that had something to do maybe with the decision, from a financial standpoint, making it almost a lateral decision. So you never know. Like with Will, he's got family stuff, right? And he may not want to leave Dallas. So there's always those things to consider, too, when it comes to that.
Very good.
And by the way,
cleared up. I was wondering why that
where
Missouri
we were
defensive
going,
coordinator left.
Yeah, I was trying to tie that
Bill
all
didn't
together.
want to hear that Missouri crap, man. He didn't want to hear none of that.
You know, you've done well when they start stealing your coaches, right?
That is true.
And Missouri I think the rankings came out this morning, and they finished 8th in the country.
They moved up a spot.
Number 8. When's the last time Missouri finished 8th in the country?
It's been probably either 2014, 13, and then 2007.
Chase Daniel years.
That's right.
Where's OU?
Way back.
Damn.
And should be way back. Got to get those defensive
look these
linemen.
up. I want to see these.
Got to get those defensive linemen. It gets back to, again, and this translates to the NFL too, is you get those big guys in the trenches who move people around.
And since we had a couple of minutes left here, we know who the Cowboys are playing next year. Obviously, the 6 games in the NFC East, they play the 4 teams in the NFC South and the AFC North. And since they won the division, they've got to play the other 2 first-place teams in the NFC, which is San Francisco and Detroit. And the 17th game is Houston. So,
do you have the home and the way on that in front of you? I shouldn't have said that on the air. I should let you find that before I
had it circled here in the paper. See how
I was trying to commit
it
it to memory, and I want to say the AFC North teams coming here were Cincinnati and Baltimore, or maybe
they've got Baltimore, Detroit, Houston, Baltimore, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati.
So the AFC North teams coming here
at home.
The home games against the AFC North are Baltimore and Cincinnati. So you got Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow coming here.
Right, and on the road it's Pittsburgh.
And then you also have Houston coming here. So you got C.J. Stroud,
correct,
the quarterback. And then who is it again on the NFC?
NFC, Carolina and Atlanta are on the road.
Okay, and one's coming here from the NFC South.
New Orleans and Tampa Bay.
Okay.
So you got to play three of the 4 NFC division winners. And I was thinking maybe that first place schedule caught up with Philadelphia. Not that they lost to having to play the first place teams from the year before.
And maybe that's a reason we haven't had a repeat winner in the NFC East since it's because of the NFL schedule makers
in
who
18 years.
You're playing first place teams from other divisions and not second place teams from other divisions.
And you'd like to say it's only 2 games, but then
it's really 3 now with the 17
game,
because Houston and the reason Houston is coming here, it would have been Jacksonville if Jacksonville won the game the other day, because the one crossover game, Houston finished first in the AFC South,
right?
And it would have been if they were going to play the first place team from the AFC South, it would have been Jacksonville if they had won the other day.
Yeah, and by the way, this is all planned out, so
there's a formula.
You can go to 2025 and you'll know what the rotation is, other than what place you finish in. So, but anyway, that's a pretty stout schedule.
Okay, I want to, when we come back here, I want you to think about the game on Sunday and what from the Washington game on Sunday bodes well for this week's game against Green Bay. I would kind of go off the radar a little bit.
Got that already.
Okay, all right. When we come back here on Mick Shots.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
Sean Polite is your 2023 Cowboys Fan of the Year, and now he needs your help. Vote for Sean to be given the ultimate title of NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan. Bless you. By casting your vote at NFL.com/Fan of the Year.
She's flawless, man. Give me a bless you, and then still didn't mess up. That's good stuff. Good job.
Do you have a cough button?
I don't know.
That could be used for sneezes,
I don't know. I didn't know what to do.
You know what? By time
I was over. I was like, I should be over here.
He hits it with his leg all the time.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
By the time you go down there and look for it, it's too late.
Right, exactly. The sneeze was pending.
When you got to go, you got to go.
Gotta go.
All right. I asked the question prior to the break. What was it, if you can think of things that bode well going forward that happened in the game on Sunday? Maybe go off the radar a little bit. And I'm not talking necessarily starters that we kind of know about, but things that happened in that game that I think might be able to benefit the Cowboys in the postseason. What comes to mind?
Well, the first thing comes to mind is that, and I understand the personnel deficiencies that Washington had on defense, but the Cowboys were able to run for 131 yards, and they were effective. It was efficient. And looking at stats for what they're worth, Green Bay finished 28th against the run. So I think if you can force them to concentrate on your running game, that's going to open up things hugely for Dak and CD and Cooks and whoever else they want to throw the ball to.
It was really fortunate on how we drove down and answered.
Right.
And it was mostly with the run.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't do a lot of passing, but it was mostly
and they kind of stuck with it.
They stuck with it and went down there, took the lead.
Right.
That made me feel good.
So I think that, and then the fact that, and again, I understand what was the line from when they were going to play the Rams when they were winless that year? It's the Rams, dude. I understand it was the Commanders, dude, but they held them to 50 yards rushing. And I thought that was the one thing that they would hang their hat on with their running backs, and it didn't work out. And the one thing that the Packers have been doing well lately, other than the improvement of Love, is running the football. And they had two guys finishing with at least 600 yards rushing, Dillon and Aaron Jones. And so I would imagine they would like to come in here and control the ball by running the football. And I know that sounds very basic. Oh, you got to run the ball and control. But for the Cowboys, when they've had problems in the playoffs, they have not stopped the opposing team's running game.
Or have any running game themselves. Right.
So I'm going to assume they can throw the ball. I'm going to assume they can move the ball throwing it. But at times you have to be able to run the football and stop the run. And I would imagine coming on the road into what they hope is a home field disadvantage, Green Bay, they want to run the football. They don't want to get into having to go shotgun all the time with the amount of noise that I'm sure they're anticipating.
For me, what my biggest takeaway was from the Commanders game, which I loved seeing, was the ability to pressure Sam Howell. Yeah. So when you look at D-Law and what he did out there and being able to kind of, stop a couple of those passes from going through. And not only that, but Dante Fowler, too.
Yes.
Big standout for me on Sunday. So I think
Fowler's like the super sub.
Right?
He comes in and he makes things happen.
I was
really
like,
well.
where did this come from?
Right.
I love it.
See, that's why you've got a veteran guy like that on your team. It's not so much the 17-game regular season. It's that guy.
These are the moments.
Yeah, that's right.
It was so funny when they're fighting for the stats, right? Howell fell down, and I don't think he was necessarily touched. And Fowler just was breaking his neck to get over there and touch him so he could be the one to get the sack. And when he touched him, he was running so fast, he went about 10 more yards. And like, ooh, did I get that? Is that mine? Is that mine? Like, no, it's yours.
Well, and think about it. To support what Savannah said, so they had 4 sacks in the game. The previous 4 games, they had 1 in each. So the pressure improved. And not only 4 sacks, but they also had 7 quarterback hits and 5 tackles for losses. So that tells me that they were very disruptive. And the other thing is, and I always look at this, when it says 6 passes defensed, well, to me, that means he's being forced to throw into tight situations. And it's not always the DB. If he's under pressure, he doesn't have time to sit there and, do the eeny, meeny, miny, moe thing. Right? That he's got to get rid of the ball.
He can't find the gap. The gap is disappearing. They try to find the gap. Yeah, there's no alleyway.
And so I thought from a defensive standpoint, and again, as I continue to say, it would have been a shutout if it wasn't for those 2 goofy plays, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, that very good point.
And here's the thing, too, is Jordan Love, he's thrown 1,075 yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his last 4 games. I think pressuring him is going to be my key thing going into Sunday. You have to get pressure on Jordan Love.
Make that young boy feel it.
Well, if you think about it, his improved play was the difference between starting 2-5 and finishing 7-3.
No doubt. They said he's done stuff that even Aaron Rodgers nor Brett Favre did as rookies. So he's come through and played well, and they have the production of an Aaron Rodgers, but without the headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to also kind of confirm what Savannah said, if you take it through their last 10 games when they went 7-3, he completed 70% of his passes for average 266 a game, and 21 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions.
Right.
So his improved play helped them to get into the playoffs with the last playoff
So
spot.
one of the hottest teams in the league right now is coming to town.
Now, having said that, their last 5 games,
I wanted to point that out next, but go ahead.
Okay, have been at the Giants, which was a 2-point loss, Tampa Bay, which is a division winner, okay, but they lost by 14. Then they beat Carolina by 3, and they beat Minnesota handily, and then they beat Chicago.
So let's point out that Carolina finished 2-15. Minnesota 7-10.
They were on their 8th quarterback.
Right. Minnesota 7-10, and they were backup quarterback.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Minnesota was on their 8th. I mean, it was their 4th. But.
And then the Bears 7-10. Right.
But prior to that,
yes.
and this is where they turned around their season. They beat the Chargers when the Chargers were still
viable.
Yeah, viable. A 3-point win. Thanksgiving Day, I remember turning on my TV and watching the Packers get up on the Lions. And I was like, whoa, this Jordan Love looks like the lights come on for him. And they beat the Lions on the road Thanksgiving Day. And then they follow up that with a win against Kansas City to get to 500 at 6-6.
Yep.
Now, after that, they lost to the Giants in Tampa Bay, but now they've won 3 in a row. So my guy from the other day that I think could bode well in a limited role, but we'll see, is Peyton Hendershot. And by the plays that he made in that game, not only the block punt, but also the catching the ball on the hurdle shows that he is healthy. And when we came into this season, I was confident Jake Ferguson would do what Jake Ferguson has done, and which why I was not concerned at all about Dalton Schultz going to Houston. But couple him with Peyton Hendershot and what he can do as well, and the athleticism that Hendershot has as another receiving threat at tight end. And also now what you can see, he's got some athleticism that because of his ankle injury in the middle of the season, obviously he was put on injured reserve, and now he's back clearly fully healthy again, and I think that they can use that in some sort of role, even if it's just on special teams or whatever, where he can make an impact in these postseason games.
After us, the fact that we want to go to CD so much, which is a good thing, we have really kind of fallen into a pattern. I think Hendershot could take us out of that pattern. You know, give us another option, and not just Ferguson, because they know we're going to come back with Ferguson and Cooks.
Absolutely.
But with this guy coming in here in some key moments, he's got to make the plays, Bill. He's got to make the plays.
Right.
You know, we can't have, hey, I had it. No, we got to make the plays. He's got to be that professional for us.
Well,
right
even
now.
look at Tolbert with he caught the first touchdown in the game.
Play.
I like seeing him get more involved too.
He made the play. That he could have easily been, this is not my moment. He threw it back shoulder. He was alert enough to do that. That's just making the play. It looked easy, but that was not an easy play.
And here's the example from a game that's happened on Saturday night. Tyler Goodson, the backup running back who only had 6 catches all year, bless his heart, he gets thrown into that 4th down situation, and you just got to, even though the throw is offline, you got to make the catch to get the first down. And so to your point, when it comes to Hendershot, he's got to make the catch, whatever.
He's been having some issues, but, we put all that behind us because right now everything's about optimism. To me, if I'm going to look at anything positive that came out of that game, it was a lot. But we have really, I think in the last couple of games, I'd say even 3 weeks, the penalty situation has been under control. We had 2 penalties for 20 yards. If I'm not mistaken, we didn't have our first penalty until the 3rd quarter.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes,
that's
right.
pretty impressive.
Really good.
And I think last week we did very well also in regards to just keeping the penalties at a minimum to where it's not going to hurt us. You're going to have penalties, but we were making such big penalties in bad situations. The timing was horrible. This time it looks like we've got that under control, and it has not stalled out any of our drives. We don't need anything to come back to be a hindrance for us in the playoffs. Everything needs to be to where if we're going to be hurt by someone, it's going to be by the opponent, not by ourselves.
And no better example of that than last night.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Washington looked like they were moving, penalties just killed their drives.
Killed
right?
the drives.
But I got another theory on that. When you're playing winning football, like you're against, a lot of times those penalties come up when the opponent's kind of dominating you, and you're hanging on for dear life.
Yeah,
right.
Just like last night.
Yeah, and think about what. So, in the last game there against Washington, they had, I think it was 2 false starts in a row. Well, who was in front of the guy's false start? It was Michael Parsons, right? They got jumpy.
Yeah.
So a lot of times those penalties are because the other team's playing really well. To me, anyway.
I agree.
And you're grabbing or whatever because you're getting beat.
They
up
have
front.
the advantage. They have the advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's good because those penalties, especially in the playoffs, you're playing against teams that belong in the playoffs.
And it's amazing how you don't even notice them when you don't have them.
Right. They just showed something on TV. They were doing a report from Tampa Bay having to play the Eagles. And I think, if I saw it correctly, it was the 3rd game of the season, and the Eagles ran for 200 yards. Well, I'm going, okay, that was the 3rd game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not actually sit there and go, okay, this is the advantage they're going to have.
It's a totally different team.
Right.
Both teams are totally different right now.
And I saw, that Instagram thing from A.J. Brown about one more interception and I'm playing for number 4 next year.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Don't use us for fodder. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to keep that over there.
Although I also saw this one. I don't know how I stumbled onto it. I must have been reading something else. Simone Biles is married to the Packers safety, Jonathan Owens.
Yes.
And she did on her Instagram, "We're coming for you, Dallas."
Oh my God!
What is she? Tyler? What's her name? Taylor Swift.
Taylor
now?
Swift. Yeah. Got Simone Biles now,
going for
and she's even from Texas. What's wrong with her?
That's right. Houston girl.
Any other parting Mick shot?
No, that's my social media input for the month.
Tomorrow, I wanna go around the room and talk about some of your top playoff games, like one of your favorites that you can really remember off the top of your head.
Good one.
I want to talk about that tomorrow.
That's a tease, ain't it?
Yeah.
It is.
How about that?
It doesn't have to be good. It could be a disappointment.
It could be a disappointment, just one that sticks out in your mind.
Okay. Playoff game.
Playoff game.
Okay.
Playoff game.
Playoffs.
Okay, I've got one. Do you got one?
I've got a bunch.
I got one.
Are they positive?
No.
It can be either or.
You don't have to talk about that one, Everson.
What do you mean that one?
We might have another one.
You know what I'm talking about. You don't have to talk about that one.
I'm not talking about that one.
Okay, we're going to do this. Like the Michael Parsons and Dak and CD are off limits. That game is off limits.
That one's off limits. Yeah.
Let's put that on the not talk about.
I'm thinking a lot of people.
We'll have to reevaluate.
Well,
right, a lot of people like, I got one. Yeah, I got Everson's game.
That's what we do. It just in my mind.
He's speechless.
In my
started
mind,
this crap.
No, in my mind, I was thinking there's a lot of people listening right now going, "Oh, I know which game Everson's going to pick. If it doesn't have to be a positive one."
No, that is not what I was thinking,
like,
people.
I know you weren't thinking it, but
That's
other
not what
people were thinking.
They were thinking I was thinking.
That's right. All right.
And 52-17's off limits also.
Oh man. Okay.
Okay. All right. That's very good. That's tomorrow on Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!